I thought that I was neurotically afraid of the big C. I used to walk out of my way to avoid passing a sign in a building that had the word cancer on it. Of course, it didn't help knowing that I was already genetically predisposed to cancer. I mean, even my astrological sign is Cancer. But I keep wondering, why did I get this and what did I do wrong? I put those little tablets into my coffee that made it really sweet. Hell, I even smuggled this stuff from Canada when it was taken off the market in the US because it was known as a suspected carcinogen. I smoked and I always liked red candies, red licorice, jelly beans, lollipops, you name it. Even after I heard that red dye number 2 was carcinogenic, I still went for them. I ate red meat, I used hairspray, I'd eaten tuna for lunch almost every day of my life since I could chew. Point is, whatever the American Cancer Society says causes cancer, I have undoubtedly done it. What makes it worse is that I'm the comedian who does Rosanna Dana, and all this stupid stuff. And then gets the most unfunny thing in the world. How could Gilda Radner, whose name was once synonymous with comedy, become synonymous with cancer? Did you know that over the course of 2020, there's been almost 14,000 cases of cervical cancer? This piece is about a young woman who gets diagnosed with cervical cancer at the age of 40, and all the bumps along the road of getting a total hysterectomy, going through chemo, and all the mental and physical barriers along the way. It goes over how she overcomes it and makes good out of bad. This piece is called It's Always Something by Gilda Radner. In the 3 years before my cancer diagnosis, I had begun to change. I'd overcome my eating disorders and retaught myself how to eat and left bulimia far behind me. I began exercising daily with tennis lessons and swimming. I even stopped chewing gum. You see, I followed a rigorous anti-cancer diet. I even had an apron from the American Cancer Society that had a big chart on it of all the things I wasn't supposed to be eating. I suppose I was beginning to care about my life. You see, I had let stress and pressure run my precious life, and once I began to catch up with it, cancer came along and said, "Hey, remember how you tempted death? Well, here's your opportunity." It's so hard for us little beings to get over the fact that we live, but then we have to die. You could smoke yourself to death, you could eat yourself to death, or you can do everything right and then get hit by a car. It is such an act of optimism to get up every day and get through the day without once thinking about death. Everything had happened so fast. I hadn't realized before my operation that not only would they be pushing poison through my veins, but they would be removing my reproductive organ, a total hysterectomy. When they had told me afterward, I understood the issue was to save my life. There was nothing to say. The ticking time clock was gone. Immediately after my surgery, my doctor had come to inform me that I was going to go through 9 courses of chemotherapy, 1 every 3 weeks. And I'd begin once I was healthy enough before I left the hospital. On November 11th, I lay on my hospital bed like a muppet. It seemed like many other procedures been done to me before. Nothing was different. I wasn't sick, I was tired. I woke up 36 hours later, weird but wired. During my entire stay at the hospital, I had not once seen my reflection. When I had returned home and saw my own reflection, a total shock came over me, total horror, because I weighed at 95 pounds. I had to put a towel at the bottom of my bathtub so I could sit without my bones sticking out. I looked like I was going to die. It was the first time I was frightened, where actual fear came over me. I actually feared what might happen to me, what was happening to me. Who was that person in the mirror? Whose image was reflecting? I was only 40 and I could die. There were Mondays where Jean drove me to the hospital, and I would cry and scream the whole way there, begging to get out of the car, wanting to jump out at any stoplight and just run as far as I could. Those Monday nights where I laid in my hospital bed thinking the entire time about how I could just leave, go out the window, and just go onto an airplane and fly to Hawaii, but what would I be running from? I'd be running away from my cure. Every night I would wake up, sweating and out of breath, running from a nightmare that didn't end when I woke up. I would wail like a wounded animal, getting louder and louder, trying to drown out what had happened. What it looked like, what could it be? The night was the scariest time. But one Wednesday, it was raining. I put on a coat and I went outside walking on my street. A car went by and splashed me. This huge amount of mud came over me. I was sopping wet. Walking down the street, I started talking aloud to myself. This is me, cancer woman. You can do anything you want to me. I can walk through storms. I can get splashed by cars. I can have millions of treatments. I can be zapped with poisons. You can radiate me. You can destroy me. But you can't, because I am Cancer Woman. Cancer isn't polite. It doesn't care about your tennis lessons or therapy. It doesn't care that you have 2 miscarriages, but you haven't given up hope yet. It hits you at stage 4 and gives you a total hysterectomy all in 24 hours. I will never have a baby, but I am still here because I am Cancer Woman. I wanted a perfect ending, but now I've learned the hard way that not all poems rhyme, and some stories don't have a clear beginning, middle, or end. The goal is to live a full and productive life, even with all that ingenuity. No matter what happens, whether cancer flares up again or whether you die, the important thing is that the days you've had, you have lived.